Welcome to episode 75 of the Cycling Europe podcast. My name is Andrew Sykes, and it's the first episode since the beginning of the summer, so I hope you've had a good summer. Personally, I've not been on the bike. My summer travels took me to France and Switzerland and Italy, hiking the Tour de Mont Blanc. Hard work, but good fun. But back to the cycling, and actually back to where my cycling story began. My first cycle was from Reading, where I was living at the time, down to Brindisi in southern Italy, and it was the basis for that first book, Crossing Europe. Craig Fee, who is an acquaintance from Halifax here in West Yorkshire, he did a similar journey in 2017, and he's just written a book about it called Cycling into the Unknown. So a couple of weeks ago, I headed off into Halifax, which isn't very far away, and he told me the story of his cycle from, in his case, London down to Florence in Italy.
I'm Craig Fee. I cycled from London to Florence in 2017, and I've just finished writing a book about it, about the journey and my own kind of psychology of doing that on my own.
I've known you for quite a few years because we first met in 2017.
Yeah, well, I think it might have been 16.
2016.
Yeah. I came to the square. I kind of often, because I'm a kind of fan of the Square Chapel and I go see like things around Halifax. I'd seen that there was a talk going on about yourself doing the Spain to Norway, and I was obviously interested in kind of in preparations myself for doing some riding, and in a weird like twist of fate, I'd already spoke to my friend who was getting married in Florence and kind of joked that I was going to cycle to his wedding. I came to see the Spain to Norway, and then it kind of during that you mentioned the other book, and I was just like, wow, that's so the same route.
So you didn't actually know, when you came to that talk, you didn't know that I'd cycled from Reading, where I was living at the time, down to southern Italy?
No.
Oh, right, okay.
So, because I came looking at it was called Spain to Norway, and I came not knowing you before, not knowing anything about you before, and throughout that talk you kind of mentioned that there was another book, and I kind of was like, wow, that book that is mentioned before sounds like a bit of a blueprint for what I want to do.
Oh, right, I didn't realise that, because I thought when you came to that, you were aware of the fact that I had done that Italy journey. But anyway, interesting.
Yeah, from my recollection, I think I came really cold into that Spain to Norway one. I think because I kind of separated from my wife at the time, and I was just out doing things on my own and kind of just buying tickets to things in not to sound weird, but enjoying being on my own at things, and I kind of just like to sit there being in kind of anonymous in audiences and stuff, and I thought that sounds really, really good, like a cycling journey. And I'd been married for a few years, and I had kind of a bubbling kind of, right, I'm going to start getting out and doing loads of things. And since I've lived in China and I've been in South America and stuff, but that was the very first time when I was kind of chomping at the bit to go do something.
So let's just backtrack, because we're both from Halifax.
Yep.
And what did you do? How old are you now?
38.
So what's your backstory in terms of your upbringing? Were you a cyclist? Did you do any cycling prior to this trip to Florence?
So in the book, I mentioned that the way I see that trip and the way I see myself as a cyclist is the fact that I'm kind of a person who likes adventure and likes testing myself, and it just so happened that that period of time it was funneled in cycling at that, because since I've had a boxing fight, I've taught I had a fight in China actually as well when I lived there, and I get passionate about things, and I get right into them, and I think I'm going to do an extreme thing in that field.
So what had you done before the cycle?
So the football team that I played for kind of organised this charity ride to Blackpool that a lot of people kind of do, and not a massive.
Is that the Huddersfield Town one?
No, it was like Sunday League football. It was Mount Tabor.
Oh, right.
And for Everyman charity, they were like, "Oh, we're all gonna cycle to Blackpool."
So was that the first time you'd done any long distance cycling at all?
Yeah, someone lent me a bike for that. But because we were all varying abilities, obviously, and because I'm generally fit anyway, and in school I was the person who did the long distance running events and stuff like that, I kind of found it very easy, the ride to Blackpool. And when I got there, I felt like I could have done it again, and then I kind of started going out with one of the other lads who went with us. So we started going out riding together, and then, as I say, because I've got this kind of addictive personality, and this kind of personality where when I get into something, I'm like, I need to go to the nth degree about it. I kind of started. I got my own bike, started looking at like journeys, and I went again to Blackpool, taking another friend who kind of said, "Oh, I'd like to do that, but I don't know what I'm doing about it." So I just took him, and then this quite soon after that, it was this conversation in the Ring of Bells, just about 100 yards from here, where it was like we'd had a couple, and I had, because we're another point where our paths have crossed is we've both worked in schools as well, and I had the 6-week holidays off, and he said, "Oh, my wedding's at the end of the 6-week holidays," and I just said, "Well, I could cycle to that," and he kind of, everyone were like, "No, you won't cycle to it anyway."
I'm going to say, did he believe you?
No, but then again, I'm the person in the group where they're like, if anyone's going to do something stupid like that, it's going to be him. So I started preparing, looking at what I needed to do, and then I can't remember, something's telling me it was like maybe February or something when I came to see you. I can't remember when it was, but it was early on in the I decided to do it, and then I came to your thing, and that gave me like, I'm definitely doing it. And then it became, I sold my van at the time, and I was working at Cullingworth at Parkside, which was about 10 miles from my house at Bell Hall. So I kind of forced myself into a training regime where I didn't have any transport to get to work anymore, and so I did 10 miles there and 10 miles back every day, which was really, really good preparation for that.
Yeah, that sounds like me when I lived in Reading. I'd sold my car, so basically I had to cycle to work.
Yep.
And that was in the lead up to me cycling to Italy in 2010. And I agree, that's a really good way of training.
Yeah.
Not just your body, but also training your mind, because you've got to get into the habit of getting up every morning and cycling a distance, okay? 10 kilometres is different from, say, doing 50, 60, 70 kilometres.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It was it was good. Yeah, because I felt great at work as well when, the PE staff at the school were really, like, one of them's a really close friend of mine now, and at the time he kind of said, "Look, I want to kind of support you with this, so I've cleared you a space, like a locker in the staff, like the PE staff's area, the shower's there, there's a key to the shower, come in when you get here, just sort yourselves out and stuff." So he gave me some kind of scope to be able to not arrive at work and be having to either dress over being sweaty or kind of come in after the rain or the snow and be bedraggled at work. You know, I could get there and leisurely have my own area to get ready and stuff, so it was nice.
So at least one person believed what you were going to do?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, and he was the PE staff, so he was more connected to the mentality of, you know, being, you know, seeing in someone that they've got a drive to do something and they look like they're going to do it, you know.
And were you happy doing it by yourself? Did you think of taking anybody with you?
No, not at any point. I've always enjoyed doing things on my own and kind of feeling very like independent, or feeling like I'm doing something that nobody else is kind of doing, you know, like I say, I've done so many different things. It's kind of like, yeah, I like to get an idea in my head that sounds a bit outlandish to myself, and then, you know, follow it through. So with that, I was like, one of the most exciting things for me was to be going on my own. That was adding to the scale of what I was going to do. That added to it for me, and I felt excited when I felt like I was going to be on my own. If I'd have invited someone else with me, I think my enthusiasm for the trip might have waned a little bit, in terms of not feeling like I was out on my own. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah. Like,
and you were working in a school, so you had to get back for September.
Yeah.
But you also had the extra incentive of obviously making sure that you were in Florence for the wedding.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to cycle from? Because presumably you set off from Yorkshire, yeah?
London.
Oh, you set off from London.
Yeah,
right.
so I got
So how long did you envisage it would take you to get from London down to Florence?
So because I'd never done anything like that before, and that's partly why it's called cycling into the unknown, because, like I say, I wasn't a cyclist per se, and I'd never travelled alone, I'd never cycled a long distance alone, I'd never camped alone, so all these things were new to me. And so what I did was I made sure I had lots of time to do it, even though in my head I was like, if I hit my goals I will be there very early. If anything goes wrong, like you say, getting back to work and being at the wedding and stuff were so important that I ended up with maybe a week to myself in Italy when I got there, because I set off from London and I did 4 days to Luxembourg, which was like London to Arnec in France, and then Arnec to Bernissart in Belgium, then Bernissart to Charleville-Mézières in France, and then to Luxembourg. Then I had a day off in I was trying to do 4 days on, one day off. So I had a day off in Luxembourg and a day off in Zurich, and so that was 4 days, 8 days. I think I got to Milan on like my 12th cycling day. I think that's what it was. And then when I got to Milan and I was kind of like, right, I'm pretty close now. I really love like Brescia and Bergamo and Garda and that, so I kind of set off I was kind of heading south all the time, and then at that point I thought, right, I'll go east and get to Lake Garda and do a bit around there. And I stayed in a hostel in Bergamo for 5 days on my own, just doing some writing and relaxing, and just, I wouldn't like to say meditation, but just kind of having time, just really being fine with doing nothing for a little bit.
And did you take a tent with you? Were you camping?
Yeah, so that's I took this Ofex like tunnel tent, which is like a one man, like the smallest kind of tent I could find. And I had my panniers either side of my rear wheel, and then the tent down the middle. But I did a couple of nights with people from Warm Showers as well. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of, the tent, I would say, was more of a I wouldn't say a backup, but it was like it was my first port call was warm showers, but it's sporadic, isn't it? And sometimes there's a lot of offers in one area, and sometimes there's none in others. So
So which places did you use warm showers?
So I stayed. My first night was was warm showers in Arneck, and then in Charleville-Mézières I stayed with a guy there.
That's a shame because there's a cracking campsite.
Yeah.
In Charleville-Mézières, I seem to remember.
Right.
Right next to the river.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So you missed a trick there. But
Yeah. And I remember one of the best camping experience was I think it's Cockenschler in Luxembourg City. I've been back there this year actually to camp, but so in Zurich I stayed with someone. In Basel, I maybe did 50-50 maybe, I think.
Oh, so quite a few.
I suppose, yeah. I think thinking back now I've kind of been asked, I'm kind of thinking, oh yeah, I've got loads of memories of people that I met. And
the first day that you cycled from London, did you manage to get to France that same day?
Yeah.
Because that's quite a trek from London down to the ferry.
Yeah.
That's quite a trek down to Dover.
Yeah. I fell off my bike as well on that first day, and I was kind of. You'll know yourself.
Was it a cleat moment?
No, well, yeah, kind of. It was, but I was going. I went onto Google Maps to find where I was going, and it kind of doesn't account for, like when you say cycling, it doesn't account for the terrain. So right. I was going through these kind of woods, and I was like, I'm on a road bike.
Were you not following the? When I did it, I was nominally following the Eurovelo 5.
Right.
Although it wasn't really signposted at all.
Yeah.
This is back in 2010.
Yeah.
But in Britain, and other sections as well, you can follow kind of regional or national routes. And for example, in Britain, you can follow I think it is number 1 cycle route, part of the National Cycle Network, and that will take you from London down to Dover, I think.
Yeah.
Were you not following that route?
No. So basically, this is how kind of not underprepared, but kind of how like I was just like, I'll get there and I'll just do it, and I kind of got to London and I just put in like which way am I going to go to Dover into my phone and kind of followed that. But
didn't it send you straight down the A road?
I can't quite remember exactly which way I went down there, but I ended up in some woods. On a track that went through some woods, right. But at one point the dirt turned into like gravel and shale, and then my tyre went down into it. Yeah. So, but then it was a cleat moment after that, but I kind of got into that. But yeah, I think what I might have done is it might have taken me on the A road, and then I seemed to, around the M25 is so like dull and kind of, I kind of think. At one point I must have just been like, I need to get off this kind of, it's just traffic and I hate that kind of thing. I hate being stuck in that, like we all do. So I think I ended up, that might have been why I ended up going on to Google Maps, maybe that's, yeah.
So you managed to get a ferry on the first night, and then you must have arrived in France pretty late.
I'd have to probably look back through my photos, like on my phone, to see the time. But yeah, I set off in the morning from London, from Woolwich Arsenal, because I just looked at the map of the tube and I was like, that's the furthest southeast station I can see on that, and it was Woolwich Arsenal. So I set off there very early. I remember coming out of my hotel at like 5 or 6, and then got on it, and I definitely got to my host after dark, because I was starting to panic. The first day was all kind of this, I think I've bitten off more than I can chew kind of thing.
So were you quite nervous about the whole thing?
Yeah, and then when things on the first day were kind of sketchy, I was like, maybe I haven't got the kind of knowledge and the skill to do this, because I fell off the bike and I was like, right, get back on. And then I got to their house after dark, and when I got to their house, they were a very kind of spiritual couple, and it was they had no lights on in the house, and incense was burning and stuff, and I felt very like worried, and I was on the floor in this spare room just finding it hard to go to sleep, because I was like, have I put myself into a situation here, you know? And I was kind of messaging my mum, kind of saying like, this is where I am and stuff, you know, and that like.
And did you ever think, right, that's it, no, this is a crazy idea, I'm just going to turn around and go back home?
And I'd probably say no to you now, but yeah, it might have crossed my mind at certain times. Just in them tantrum moments, you know, where you're kind of like, everything's going against me, the world's against me, and like I'm kind of having a bit of a meltdown. But
I think when I did it in 2010, I was quite glad, looking back, that because I was coming from Reading, I was living in Reading, so I'd a bit further than you to go, because I wasn't starting from London.
Yeah.
So I cycled down to London. I met a friend, and I'd found this campsite at Abbey Wood, which is an amazing place. It was, not far from Belmarsh Prison, high security prison. Yeah. And this wooded area, and it's like a campsite from the door in. Right. Beautiful place. Yeah. And that really, for me, that really boosted my confidence. Because I thought, actually, this isn't too tricky after all. But thinking about your experiences, having cycled down basically what sounds like busy roads down to Dover, getting off a ferry in Calais, and then ending up in, I don't know, I don't want to libel them, but some weirdos out.
Yeah, well, there's that first day that I remember from Calais setting off to Arneck and being like, this is more like it, you know, right. the roads and the fields and everything up that north part of France. I was kind of like, oh, this is exactly what I was imagining. Right. So on the first day, I was still cycling in England, and it felt like not a waste of time, but I was just like, I've done this kind of cycle a million times, and I was like, it's not really going to start until I get off the ferry on the other side. But I did get to them late, and that getting there after dark kind of did add to my like anxiety, and then they were kind of, I'm a picky eater as well, and they were sort of, we've made pea soup from his garden, and like that was all that was on offer, and I was kind of struggling to eat that too. So yeah, I was kind of a duck out of water for the first.
So you escaped the following morning.
Yeah.
And were you then following? You still weren't following a set route. You weren't following any regional route down to.
No. So there's like an example of it in the book, but then I started writing my directions down on a piece of paper and slotting it in where my phone went in my bike, and it was kind of because the places that I went were quite remote, and well, the routes that I took seemed like there's kind of one road connecting one place to another, you know, like I'd write, get to the, I don't know, D23 or whatever, and then go for 40 miles or whatever, and then there'll be a fork, and I'm taking the D40 from there, and it was just written down in steps, and if it didn't make absolute sense when I hit the turning point, I'd kind of look back on my phone and be like, oh yeah, that's right. But
and this is you worked all this out on the same day? You did this
the night before, the night before the next day's ride, I usually did that.
Right, okay. I thought mine was unplanned.
Yeah. Well, anyone who's listening to this who knows me will be like, yeah, that sounds like him. But to anyone who's a professional, well, they'll be like, this guy sounds like he just jumped into something he didn't know nothing about. But that was part of the excitement.
You'd be surprised how many people are nearer to what you did than nearer to the version that you perhaps read about, and you imagine people planning in great detail. I think the majority of people just don't bother.
No.
Because the other thing is that if you plan something in excessive detail before setting off, you're then kind of a slave to your plan.
Yeah.
And you don't have that inbuilt flexibility.
Yeah.
Just to kind of go a bit further, or, if you're not
Yeah.
feeling in the mood, stop after 10 kilometres
Yeah.
and find somewhere else to stay.
Well, every time when I used to come up with some scheme, like, and speak to my mum, she used to be like, her first response to anything I said I was going to do, she was like, "Oh, Craig, like, like you're putting yourself in a situation for no reason, Because like the year after the cycle, I said to her, "Oh, I've signed up to do this charity boxing match," and she kind of looked me up and down and said, "Are you sure?" But yeah, I think it was all cycling into the unknown. It was all just me working things out along the way.
I'm beginning to understand why you've chosen that as the title of the book that you've written.
Yeah.
Because France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Italy, it's not the unknown, but perhaps the way that you did it, it perhaps is into the unknown.
Yeah, it's more of that. It is more of the unknown in terms of my knowledge. That was the thing, and just everything was the first time I'd ever done it. First time I'd ever camped in a tent on my own, and even that, it's a little thing, but when I, laid down inside that tunnel tent and zipped up, it was like a bit of a coffin feeling, and you kind of, that was also a thing I had to get used to, and meeting new people that I'd never met and staying at their house and trusting them and them trusting me and stuff. And this whole like paying it forward thing was a new thing to me as well, and it was just such a revelation when I'd been, and I was like, that is why people, and the first couple of things I was like, why are these people giving their evening up for me? And then when I got back, I was like, I can't wait to do that for somebody. Do you know what I mean? And you kind of, that was a new feeling to me as well, where I was like, oh yeah, we're all, it's the definition of a community, and I was like, this is what I want. I want to do this for someone else. Before I went, I'd have been like, I'm not so sure, but when someone's been so hospitable to you, you want to give it back immediately, and then you can't thank them enough. And then I'm kind of like staying with them for the back end of the trip, going, I can feel why they're doing this now, because someone's done this for them, and it's and that's kind of fundamental thing to learn, but it was something that I've taken with me and kept with me since. It was just an incredible thing to learn, and yeah.
And the bike you were on, you mentioned it had thin tyres.
Yeah.
When you fell off in the wood in Kent somewhere. Looking back, was it a suitable bike for that journey, do you think? No.
I wouldn't have said so. I think I could have.
Was it a bike that you'd bought specifically for the trip?
No, it was just the bike I had. It was a Carrera from Halford, so it was not a. It was kind of £200 worth, £250 worth, or something like that. I could have, like when I've watched your journeys and other people's, you get like I could have, if I'd have known more about it and I'd have planned a lot better, I could have found something a bit more bespoke to that type of thing. But again, I was kind of like throw the bags on and go and see where I end up.
Panniers?
Yeah.
You had a pannier rack, did it?
I bought the pannier rack off Amazon and just and put it on myself.
So basically, you've got a £250 bike from Halford.
Yep.
You stuck your own pannier rack on it.
Yep.
It's got thin tyres.
Yep.
That doesn't necessarily sound like the best bike you could.
Yeah.
Did you have any mechanical problems?
No. It shocked me, but I didn't have any punctures or no. The only problems I had were I fell off twice, and the second time was in torrential rain in northern France, and it was like maybe the third day, and I was kind of a bit sluggish because I'd been riding a lot, and I tried to like ping my front wheel up onto a curb, but it wasn't a kind of square curb, it was a slanted curb, and I went half onto it, and my front tyre went down the curb, and I slammed onto the floor, and I kind of all the air went out of me and stuff, and I was sat there on the floor in the rain, just being like, God, I need to just keep going, or I'm gonna I just didn't have another choice anyway,
Yeah.
but to just keep going.
The bit between Luxembourg, you went over the Alps, the Gotthard Pass, is
Yeah,
that right?
yeah.
So the bit between Luxembourg and the Alps, the Gotthard Pass, what route did you take there? Because you mentioned Zurich earlier.
Yeah. So I went from Luxembourg. I went to Saarbrücken. I kind of wanted to just dip my toe into Germany, so I was heading down the east coast of France. I nipped in, stayed at a campsite in Saarbrücken. Then from there I went down to Strasbourg, then kind of southwest to Basel, and then into Zurich
you were
from there.
The Rhine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So my host kind of made me swim in the Rhine at Basel as well. That was amazing. There's like a tradition that you jump in at a certain point near the art museum.
This
and
is in
Basel.
Right. Okay.
And the Rhine goes through the city, but the flow of it kind of just carries you around.
So your host, threw you in the river?
Yeah, I arrived there, and he made me some food, and then he kind of said to me, "Are you gonna swim in the Rhine?" Because I haven't made it clear, but I've been back. I drove the trip with Megan, my partner, this year.
Oh, right.
To take her to all the places that I went to, and we swam it again this year, and it's kind of a thing in Basel that everyone in Basel knows, that you just jump in there, and on one day of the year everyone does it, but he just said, I said no, I'm sleeping and I'm getting off in the morning, and he just kind of said, I'm gonna have to pull you up and say that while you're here you're gonna have to do it.
God, I'm glad I didn't use warm showers.
Yeah. So we jumped in, and you kind of keep yourself afloat, but the river takes you around this massive corner, and then we got round to the other side, and there's steps, and sit out, and there's there were a beer truck, and we just watched the sun go down together and stuff. It was one of the best moments I had on the trip. Just being in the middle of such a massive river going through a city, and it's just one of them times where you go, I'm living my life here, definitely. I'm enjoying it.
You certainly met some interesting people on warm showers.
Yeah.
So you went down the Rhine, you got to Basel. There is a route, though, that takes you from Basel. It is route number, if I remember. I think it's number 3.
Right.
Swiss route 3 takes you from Basel across via Lucerne.
Yeah.
And then along that unpronounceable lake.
Yep.
Up into Andermatt and then over the Gotthard Pass. But
Yeah.
you went to Zurich, so you must have headed east to begin with.
Yeah. So part of my initial planning was kind of looking down the map and going, where sounds interesting, or where would I like to visit?
Right.
And Zurich just popped out as I was like, well, if I'm going that way,
Yeah.
it sounds like that sounds like somewhere I'd like to visit and go and see. So I kind of picked out, like Strasbourg, Basel, these things just popped out of a map when I was looking at that direction, and then I'm really glad I went into kind of Zurich, because when I came down from there, that's when I went on the Axenstrasse, and that was one of the most jaw-dropping moments I've ever had.
I don't know anything about that. Tell me about that.
So it's one of them kind of roads where, the tunnels cut into the mountain on one side, and there's a lake on the...
Right,
So there's a lake... The way I went down it, the lake was on my right, and I was kind of cycling a mountain, kind of a road on my left, the mountain was on my left, and
So
I don't
kind of
really know.
Through one of those galleries.
Yeah.
Where you can see because there's kind of windows cut out in the tunnel.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the front cover of the book, and it's
And what was it called again?
the Axenstrasse.
The Axenstrasse.
Yeah, and so that it was a massive lake on the right, and it's just one of the most aesthetically astounding things I've ever seen. And when you're cycling, you have that moment where a place gets uncovered to you, round a corner or something like that. I kind of came round this corner, and I was like, oh my God, what's this? This is unbelievable. And I just...
And were you climbing at the time? Was it getting higher and higher?
No, it was kind of between Zurich and kind of I think it was like Vasa or something, just near the anyway, it was quite, it was really nice cycling down there. It was kind of lakes, and I wasn't doing much climbing really down there.
So how did you get to the Gotthard Pass then? Did you go via Andermatt?
Yeah.
So how did you get to Andermatt?
I basically went straight south from Zurich, so that took me through the Axenstrasse and then down. I think the place before it was called, it'd be pronounced Vasa, or it's
right.
Wasse.
Do you remember climbing? There's basically a wall that you get to, and you've got to go through these switchbacks.
Yeah.
And it's the most, I think, looking back, I think that's one of the most challenging bits of cycling I've ever done in my life.
It feels almost indoor, that one.
You just feel as though you've arrived at a wall.
Yeah.
And that you've got to climb this wall in order to get from, I think down at the bottom was Altdorf or somewhere.
Altdorf, yeah, that's it, yeah.
Up the river, up the lake.
Yeah.
And then you suddenly have to climb pretty suddenly.
Yeah.
And then eventually you get to Andermatt, which is in a kind of
levels
a
out
hanging valley.
Yeah.
Further up, and then obviously you go over the in fact, it was more
sounds like
challenging. I thought going from Altdorf to Andermatt was very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Compared to that, going over the Gotthard Pass was easier.
Yeah. I felt the same. I felt like that. Like you say, you come to. It's kind of never ending, that area, isn't it? And I was in the book, I kind of say one of the things I noticed was there's the road tunnel that goes through the mountain, and then there's like a train tunnel that goes through, and you kind of getting as you're cycling, they're going under you eventually, aren't they? And I kind of remember climbing and going, right, that's one road that's totally disappeared now, and I'm above that, and then I'm above the train, and then you kind of, But I do remember that there's the switchback bit that's, like you say, it's not next to a lake or anything, but it's the one that it's got all the windows cut up. It's like kind of sandstony, like beige coloured, like wall going up.
And where did you stay? Where did you stay in Andermatt? Did you camp?
In the camp in Andermatt, the one in the right in the valley, like you say, the hanging valley, the one that's in the middle there.
Next to the ski station.
Yeah.
Yeah, I stayed in that last year again.
Yeah.
Just going in the other direction from. I was travelling west to east that time.
Yeah.
Rather than from north to south. But it's exactly the same as it was.
Yeah.
It hadn't changed one bit.
Well, that was another one of these, like, you know, big reveal moments where you kind of come into Andermatt, and to get round to the car park, round to the camping sites, you cycle up and then go around to the right and then down to it, and past the pub and past the shop and stuff, and it's kind of, you're on kind of a narrow street, and then again these things like revealed to you at the end.
It kind of just, Andermatt just finishes, and then you get the Andermatt Valley.
And I was like, am I camping there? This is just unreal. Like,
an amazing
and all,
view.
And all it's taken is kind of my will to just get you, you know, like that's all that it's cost me, and it's just, that reveal was unreal. That's, like I say, I won't say I'd lived a sheltered life, but I'd not done much travelling up to that point, and them places in Switzerland were just like the gifts that kind of kept on giving. I couldn't believe how amazing it was. I was like, this is better than anyone could have ever described it to me, you know.
And then when you climbed to the Gotthard Pass, did you go up the cobbled road, or
no,
did you go up the other road?
I went up the main road.
Right. I reckon you could have got away with the cobbled road.
Yeah.
They're not like these cobbles here.
No, they're quite flat and tight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I can't quite remember what influenced my decision on that, but it was probably just as far as the path of like least resistance, I suppose. I suppose that might have been, and also I associated the cobbled road more with, you know, these stories that I'd read in your book of, you know, people doing the pilgrimage and and walking, and it being a walking thing, and I don't know, I kind of probably, and it's easy for me to look back now with different eyes, but at the time I was still worried that at any point I could fail, you know.
Yeah.
I was still at the point before I got to Italy where I was like, this Gotthard Pass was like it sounded scary to me because I'd never done one before. I'd never done a mountain pass ever, and I was like, maybe I'll get to it and it'll be more than I can chew, and so I was still worried, thinking I need to do whatever means I'm going to get to Italy.
Yeah, I think for me the Gotthard Pass was kind of it was a moment where I could think, well, actually, at this point, if I turn around and go home, I can say I've achieved something.
Yeah.
Because it was the physical highest point.
Yeah.
It was the top of the Alps. I climbed the Alps.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly I continued, and so did you. But yeah, there was something about. I think that was the iconic bit in my mind in the preparation period. I was thinking that was the bit I was all focused upon.
Yeah. I'd agree. Yeah.
And then you went through Ticino. Did you go back down the cobbled road, or did you go down the main road again?
I went down the main road again into Ariolo.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I had loads of problems with. I had 2 or 3 broken spokes, just after the Gotthard Pass.
Yeah.
So I crawled into Ariolo.
Yeah.
And managed to get my bike fixed, but
right. That descent was. I remember feeling like, because under the road there's nothing, like, you know, it's kind of suspended, the road at some points. Right, when you're heading, you just come from where the cafe and the car park is at the top of the road that you can see Ariolo from. You kind of head out onto like an almost a bridge kind of road, and my fear of heights was kind of kicked in, because you know, that kind of shaky. I feel unsteady because I'm so scared of how high I am.
With your pannier bags, you could have just taken off the brakes and you could have picked up some massive speed.
Yeah.
But by the sounds of it, you didn't do that.
I did further down. I think I hit something like 40 kilometres an hour or something. I can't. But it was one. It's again one of them things where at the top I was a bit timid, and I was a bit like, oh, this is so high. And then when I got to the point where I was like, right, either side of here is not a massive accident. You know, I'm getting into the fields bit near the bottom.
Was it busy? Was there a lot of traffic on the road?
No. Not in my recollection. No, I felt, you know, that kind of wind in my hair, kind of gliding, beautiful feeling. Like, I didn't have to kind of clamber past anyone or anything. I got down there, but then from Ariolo to Bellinzona felt like the longest ride in the world, and it, probably because of the exhilaration I'd had very early in the day, because I'd got up in Andermatt, gone straight up to the Gotthard top to the top of the Gotthard Pass, got down into Ariolo, and I was like, wow, I've done an amazing day. And then it was like a large part of the ride was still kind of in front of me, and it was kind of nothing much happening. You know, I was just like, right, I'm on a straight road here all the way to Bellinzona, and just
I think
the miles felt sluggish.
I think I had the same thoughts, because you're focused on one particular thing and you kind of forget the other bit. For me, I had this issue with the spokes as well, so I had to sort that out, and I still had to get to Bellinzona. I think that was the first campsite in Ticino. And then from there, did you feel as though, because I mean Ticino is Italian speaking Switzerland, it feels like just arriving in Italy, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that line over the Alps is so peculiar to someone from England where, you know, that type of culture thing doesn't exist, where you literally go over a hill and you've gone from Germany to Italy kind of thing, you know. It's so weird, like the names, you know, you've got Andermatt and Altdorf, which is so German sounding, and then you over there, like you say, it's just one hill, and it's like you are in Italy. Then you feel like
You feel it's Italian.
So you paused your journey. You said you were 5 days in a hostel when you did get to Italy.
Yeah.
5 days in a hostel in
Bergamo. Yeah.
But you still have, getting down to Florence.
Yeah.
Is still a fair distance from Bergamo down to Florence.
Yeah.
So how many more days did it take you?
I went from. So when I finally decided to get back actually in the saddle and commence the journey, I was at Peschiera del Garda, the southern kind of tip of the lake,
Right.
and I went from there to Modena, and then Modena to. I think it was 2 days from there.
Okay.
I went Peschiera to Modena and Modena to Florence,
Okay.
and that final day nearly that was the closest. So it was weird because I had so little left to do, but that was the closest I'd been to breaking that last day.
Why?
Because just like that last story, the feeling of already arriving took over me, and I got sent out up the Apennine, up the mountains up from between Modena and Florence. And it was literally just climb, and then go down the other side.
Were you not expecting it?
No.
Oh, right.
And
they're the worst ones, because if you don't, hills are okay.
Yeah.
If they're anticipated.
Yeah.
If you know they're coming, because you can mentally prepare.
Yeah.
It's a physical thing, but it's a mental thing.
Yeah.
And I have the same. It's like, they can be the tiniest of hills. If you don't know it's there, it's a real pain to climb over them. And it's the same thing with, big mountains as well.
Yeah.
They're fine if you know that they're coming, but if they're just, for me, it was the Peloponnese in Greece. I didn't realise that the Peloponnese were so big and massive.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I kind of was like, all I need to do today is this last ride, and I'll see all my friends and that kind of thing. And then, I'm going up that, and I haven't packed. I didn't get, enough food and drink for the day's ride, because I thought there'll be places everywhere. And then in the Apennines, it was like I got halfway up and I thought, I can see like a gas station. Went there, closed because it was the afternoon, and then there's like a vending machine outside, and I think that wasn't working, and I kind of just, the heat was just, I was like, I don't know if I can do this day, and it nearly broke me, because I was like, I'm nearly there, but this in front of me is like, I had a bit of a kind of moment where I got a bit kind of upset. I was kind of like going, I'm so close yet so far, and I felt again like that kind of world against me feeling, where I was like, everywhere's closed, every corner I go around when I think I'm at the top of the hill exposes another section of the climb.
So you did get to Florence.
Yep.
And how many days between arriving and the wedding?
2. Like I arrived, spent one. I arrived. The wedding was the next day, I think.
Right.
So I arrived, went out with my friends, stayed overnight in a like a B&B. Then I went and gave my bike away at the Florence by Bike cycling shop.
Right. Okay.
And then I went to the wedding. Did you turn up at the wedding in your Lycra? No. No, it would have, like, looking back, it would probably. I think I wanted to. I don't think I wanted to. I'm kind of two different people. I'm kind of an extrovert, but then also I don't like congratulations. I kind of find it hard to take. So
yeah, I suppose also it would, if you turn up kind of and. It would make you the centre of attention.
Exactly,
at the wedding, which really is not the job of a guest at a wedding.
No. He kind of mentioned me in the speech. He just said, "You've all come a long way," and special mention to kind of thing, which was nice. But I just didn't, like I said, you don't want to take attention away from anyone. And
so, what made you then? Did you always plan on writing a book about it?
No, I think it evolved from so many notes and so many stories to tell,
Right.
I never imagined how many amazing things would happen and how many amazing people I'd meet. And I kind of, I got all my stuff together, and I was, I've always wanted to, write a book and get, it's no mean feat, is it, to write a book, and kind of, I've always had that, being a songwriter and poetry and stuff. I've always thought I'd like to write a book, and I was like, this is probably the most material I'll ever have to, to get one done. So
you did the cycle in 2017,
yeah.
And obviously 2023 now, so it's 6 years
since
you did
yeah.
it. But actually, thinking about Lee Timmis, who was on the previous episode of the podcast,
yeah,
he did a similar thing, because he came back from cycling around the world in 2015. I think it was 2017 or 18 when he broke this record of cycling across Europe. But then it took him 5 years to write his book. So perhaps it needs that time to reflect upon it and kind of get the full value out of the experience.
And I'd probably it's probably interesting to look at the statistics of books released after COVID as well.
True.
With how many people had so much time on their own to kill, and going, well, if I'm ever going to do this, I'm going to do it now. There might be a little, if you look at the statistics, there might be a spike in book releases from that, I reckon.
Yeah, that might be true. Is it a book just about cycling and travelling?
No, there's parts in it about me, and there's kind of a chapter about anxiety and travelling alone, and these kind of feelings where I got phantom feelings of like my leg hurting and feel like there was an injury coming, but it was psychological. There's also about a bit about my early life where I'm kind of, that I feel fed into the success of the journey, or feel like things people have noticed about me, or things I've noticed about my childhood that somehow fed into who I am now, and how doing that kind of thing. There's kind of poignant bits at the end, like unfortunately in the last kind of year and a half I've lost my mum and my dad, and it's also there's kind of a rumination on like travelling and choosing a lifestyle that takes you away from people for long periods of time, and how that kind of feels when you come back, and how that kind of feels when something massive happens. And I've spent 2 years of my life recently living in China, and I didn't see my mum for 2 years, and then I went away to South America, and my dad passing away brought me back, which gave me 6 more months with my mum. And there's kind of a rumination towards the end that kind of says, this lifestyle is, people hear and go, wow, I want to do that, I'd like to do that, I wish I'd have done that, kind of thing. And then when you're left alone, you've kind of got this semi-guilt thing that you have to deal with, that's, like I'm living my life to the full, which takes me away from people. So there's kind of things that have happened since brought into the last chapter a little bit, but not to a point where I wanted them to take over it. They kind of just do a thought, like a lasting thought on, how the whole trip affected me, and how it changed my mindset to go and test myself after it, and not be scared of meeting people from anywhere, and trusting them, and giving everyone a chance, and being leading with that kind of generosity and that charitable edge, So it is kind of, I almost think you could probably read it and go, this is this guy just working himself out, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? I think there's a lot of that in it, kind of where you read it and go, yeah, he actually didn't know what he was doing. And he kind of just worked it out along the way, and then...
But I think I think often that's what people want to read.
Yeah.
They want to read about somebody who is probably similar to them.
Yeah.
Because then it makes it sound a lot more attainable.
Yeah.
Have you done any other long distance cycles? You mentioned being in China and South America. Any cycling, long distance cycling there?
No. We were kind of doing workaways there. I was working for us, kind of supper, as they say, like staying at people's houses, and they was feeding us we were teaching English in a place called I can't pronounce it, but it's Farroupilha. But obviously they don't pronounce the R's. It's Farroupilha, and that we worked at an English school called Talkers there. This is Megan, by the way, who I've met since the ride.
He's just now sitting over there.
Oh yeah. Hi. So yeah, we were doing a lot of working for like painting houses and helping out with people's day-to-day lives and things. So yeah, that was more just travelling, just backpacking as fundamentally.
And have you got any plans to do any more cycling?
Not. I don't at the moment. No. At the moment, I'm in a phase of my life where because I've been a songwriter and musician for a long time, and a lot of people around Halifax know me more for that. I've put that on the back burner.
I mean, you're relatively famous in Halifax for your musical abilities. It's you, the Orioles, and that's it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm writing now, and I've got 2 more books that have got a framework, and
are they about travelling? Are they about?
One's about travelling. One's about South America, and again the hospitality of people who don't need to be, hospitable, and we got into this Chilean song called Estrechez de Corazon, and it's called Narrowness of Heart, and it's this guy kind of saying like I can appreciate anything in life. I can appreciate people not being educated and stuff, but I can't appreciate people who've got a narrowness of heart. And I thought, I've called the book Amplitude de Corazon, like the kind of breadth of heart and the size of the heart, so it's going to be more about that. And I got a call when I was in Peru. I was supposed to be away for 6 more months, but my dad had an heart attack, so I came home. But on the way home, we got our main bag stolen with my laptop and my passports and my drone and everything in it while I was heading home to say goodbye to my dad, basically. And it's kind of all of that kind of thrown in together, because by that time I'd kind of this thing of losing this bag, which would have broken me usually, I kind of just totally let it go. And I was kind of like, I'm in a place kind of where people don't have much, and I'm not capitalising on it, but I'm kind of there to enjoy myself and do something for my life, but they live there, and if they feel if that's happened, then it's just a byproduct of what we do, I think. I don't know. That book's got a shell at the moment.
And is the other book a murder mystery?
The other one is it's a fictional story. Well, it's not a fictional story. Everything in the book is true, but it's
fictionalized.
Yeah, I can't say too much about it because there's a surprise element to it of kind of people who are going to receive it and things like that. But it's something that me and my family have been through recently. That's the most significant thing that's ever happened in all our lives, and I've kind of changed it into a what would I say, like kind of a famous 5 kind of thing, where we've all got a character, but it's our real character, but just to offset the kind of tragedy of the subject matter, it's kind of where fictionalized, it's kind of told as a story, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And how do people get hold of the book that you have written about the cycle to Florence?
So the one I've got with me now is the proof, and I'm when I get them delivered, the book corner in Halifax is going to be stocking them. My website's going to be stocking them, and then
what's your website?
craigfee.net. And
that's craigfee, F-E-E.
Yep.
.net.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you can get a link from there, or /cycling into the unknown, and that'll take you straight to the book where you can read it up to the penultimate chapter on there.
Right.
And then, you know, I'm kind of carrot and a stick with the last chapter in the physical book.
And presumably it will be available also on Amazon?
Yeah, it'll be available online, yeah.
Okay. Right, well,
So yeah, and kind of from me, like if people contact me, or I'm also going to be doing a launch event at the Square Chapel, which hasn't got a specific date for that yet, but people can also look out for that, where I'll be doing readings, and again a bit more like this has been, kind of talking about the how it came about and what's happened, like how I've felt since, and you know, that kind of thing. Just what the book's about, basically.
Yeah. Well, I'll make sure you let me know, and I'll come along.
Yeah.
I'll come and watch you at Square Chapel rather than you watching me.
I know. Yeah, it's just so we kind of, it's gone full circle, hasn't it? We, like when we first met, we were like, oh yeah, I teach in school. I do some in the 6th week, and like, yeah, but yeah, your book was a massive inspiration, and in the book, in here, there's a picture of me reading your book in Luxembourg.
I thought you were going to say there's a picture of me. God,
no,
I don't think there's a picture of me in my book.
No, when I got to this one in Luxembourg.
Have I seen this picture before?
Maybe.
Oh yeah, that does look familiar.
Yeah.
I think you tweeted that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. Oh, thank you for that.
Yeah. So I was kind of, you know, I wouldn't say, your journey was very, like I say, the best way I could probably say it's like the blueprint, where I kind of, I could read your book and say, well, that's where I'm going there tomorrow. That's where I'm going tomorrow. Yeah.
But I mean, by the sounds of it, it was actually quite okay. There were crossing points, but there were lots and bits and pieces where it was very different.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good luck with the book, and I'll look forward to going to the launch whenever it is. Sometime in autumn. Yeah,
it's going to be in the next few weeks, but yeah, thanks a lot for talking to me, and it's been enjoyable. Thank you.
Cheers, thank you. Thanks to Craig Fee for offering to talk to me, and his website, just to reiterate, is craigfee.net, and that's Fee, F-E-E, and you'll be able to buy copies of his book via his website. Right. That's it for episode 75. Don't forget, all the previous 74 episodes you can find by visiting cyclingeurope.org/podcast. You can get in contact if you've got your own cycling story by visiting cyclingeurope.org/contact. And if you'd like to help support the podcast, then you can do that by visiting cyclingeurope.org/support. And of course, you can write a review or give a rating for the podcast on the podcast platform that you happen to be listening on now. So thank you for listening to episode 75. Episode 76 will be with you very soon. I'm about to record that interview in the next week or so. More about that in episode 76. So thank you for listening, and of course, happy cycling.